Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Phil Pit Stops may retire soon because this is Ricky Carvin, a rookie for this season. Same with Randy Revkins, who are two of the rookies for this season. The other one being Turner, the backup retread racer. Oh, there's a fourth? Oh, this is Rowley Boltstrike, who was the winner of the Piston Cup Juniors last season. Bill Racelot now has this look because Junior Moon is no longer his crew chief. But Sean McMotor had to change his number because Bill Racelot is now the number 94. Kyle Traxon chose to change his number for some reason. And Ron Blaster has this look to commemorate the release of the Sega Saturn. The Blaster Charger Racing looks exactly the same. And sadly, Wood Brothers Racing only has Daryl Dragon because his teammate sadly died last season. The Pit Stops Revolting Crew still looks the same. Shift Right Racing also looks exactly the same as last season. Same with the Anti-Chickix team. The exact same as last season. Alloy Wilson Racing added 2 cars after the retirement of Thomas Tanrev. Chevrolet Motorsports also looks exactly the same. Same with Joe Gears Racing with their 2 cars. Rush Racing still has the same 4 cars. And there's a new team called the Crazy Eights with the 2 number 88 cars of Dale Carrett and Ernie Swervin, who won't be back for a while. Dynaco Motorsports has the King. And even Dale Earnhardt made his own team. Now, onto the race. Dale Carrett will start at pole position and he'll lead for the first 7 laps before Jeff Gorvette would take the lead from him, leading for the next 5 laps until lap 12, where Larry Smith would take the lead from him, leading for the next 4 laps before he's out because of Chick Hicks! Why? And Rusty Wheelhouse will take the lead after the restart. He'll stay in the lead for a full 9 laps before Bobby Carboni will take the lead from him on lap 26 and lead for the next 3 laps, where Ernie Gearson would take the lead from him, and leading until lap 36, where Clint Shiftright would take the lead from him, leading all the way to lap 39 for a total of 3 laps. But then Kyle Traxon will take the lead until lap 46, where Chick Hicks is 4th as of lap 46, where he crashes his rival Kyle Traxon, of course. Ernie Gearson, Clint Shiftright, Mike Yankee, Eugene Karbareski, WJ Lights, Ricky Slood, Ron Blaster, Andrew Axler, Jonathan Melter, and Johnny Blamer. Billy Oilchanger, Bill Racelot, Ruby Easy Oaks, Murray Clutchburn, Ken Schrader, Kevin Racing Tire are all down 1 lap, but Hall Ingus will lead for the first 2 laps after the restart. On lap 49, Krusty Roeder would take the lead and lead for the next 7 laps before he's out, alongside Kenny Shiftright and Joe Brakecheck because of Mark Burnsley. Why? And he'd lead to lap 61, where Dale Earnhardt would take the lead from him, leading for just 4 laps before the King would take the lead from him, leading for 10 laps before Sammy Smelter. Oh, he's actually down 1 lap. Same with Misty Motocross, Jeremy Carfield, and Paunchy Wipeout. But Rowley Boltstrike will take the lead from the King, and he would lead for 9 laps, lapping Michael Cartrip, putting him down 1 lap, and putting Murray Clutchburn down a 2nd lap. Chick Hicks would lead for the 11 laps after that, and he also crashed Chuck Armstrong, Mark Burnsley, Ruby Easy Oaks, Misty Motocross, Paunchy Wipeout, Billy Oilchanger, and Kevin Racing Tire. And since Misty Motocross was one of the cars that's out, Claude Scruggs had something to say about it. Mark Carton would take the lead after the restart and lead all the way to lap 115 before Rowley Boltstrike would take the lead from him, leading until lap 118, where Terry Carboni would take the lead from him, leading for the next 6 laps before he's out because of Chick Hicks! Why? After the restart, Jeff Gorvette will take the lead and he'd lead for the next 11 laps before Sterling Carlin would take the lead from him, leading to lap 144, where the King would once again take the lead, and he'd lead all the way to lap 160, where Jeff Gorvette would once again take the lead for just 7 laps before once again losing the lead to the King, who will lead all the way to lap 176 before losing it to Jeff Gorvette once more on lap 176 until lap 185. Dale Earnhardt would take the lead and lead for the next 14 laps, and Murray Clutchburn would get back on lead lap, but then go down another lap because Rusty Wheelhouse took the lead and passed Murray Clutchburn. But Murray Clutchburn passed Rusty Wheelhouse, thus putting him back in the lead lap, where the King would take the lead, and he'd lead for 110 laps? How does any car lead for 110 laps? And Dale Earnhardt would be the one that stops the King from leading 111 laps. And on lap 327, Hall Ingus would take the lead, but only 3 laps later, Rowley Boltstrike would take the lead from him, leading for the next 19 laps before Jeff Gorvette would take the lead from him, leading to lap 355, where Rusty Wheelhouse would take the lead from him, leading until lap 358, where Hall Ingus would once again take the lead for 10 laps. But Dale Carton would take the lead from him, leading until lap 370, but Mark Carton's out because of an engine failure. The King, being the King, took the lead and led to lap 390, where Chick Hicks would have to cause a crash, eliminating Murray Clutchburn and Bobby Carboni. Chick Hicks was booed though. Rusty Wheelhouse would take the lead for 11 laps and was booed by some cars. And also, Rowley Boltstrike would take the lead for a full 17 laps and no cars booed him. Jeff Gorvette would also take the lead. Sadly, some cars booed him though. But Hall Ingus would take the lead on lap 421, and he didn't really care if cars booed him when Sterling Carlin took the lead. But who did receive some boos was Sammy Smelter, who got on lead lap, but since he's so stinky, Dale Earnhardt sadly goes down 1 lap because Sammy Smelter farted. But Dale Earnhardt gets back on the lead lap, and then he wrecks Sammy Smelter, who is out. But no one really cared because no one liked either car. But Dale Earnhardt was still better though, because he won a lot of races and took a car wash. Hall Ingus would take the lead after this, and he'd lead to lap 447, where Rowley Boltstrike would once again take the lead from him, leading for 30 laps? How? But then the King would take the lead from him, leading to lap 485, where Dale Earnhardt would once again take the lead from him, and he'd lead to lap 488, where Jeff Gorvette would take the lead from him, and lead to lap 494, where the King would take the lead from him, leading for the next 2 laps, before Sterling Carlin passes him, and leads on the last lap to win the 1995 Florida 500. Sterling Carlin is the first car since Drive Parkerson to win back-to-back Florida 500s. And if you didn't think Chick Hicks sucked, look at all the cars that are neither a lap down or out!
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Sorry this video took so long to make, but since you saw -1 lap and out in the top 20, that meant that Chick Hicks had to have wrecked more than 20 cars. Or Kyle Traxton. But either way, Chick Hicks is a bad car. And hopefully the 1995 Piston Cup races 2 to 35 will be out soon enough.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
This car is Robbie Gorvette. He is a rookie this season. And Kenny Shiftright says this: Dad, he's the same number as me! But Craig Shiftright has to tell his son that he has to be nice to other cars. Jeff Gorvette, who is actually not related to Robbie, starts at pole position for the second race. But Chuck Armstrong would end up being out because of Ron Blaster! Why? But you know this guy, Chick Hicks, would wreck 11 cars. Rowley Boltstrike would end up almost winning the second race, but in the end, Jeff Corvette would beat him and win the second race. And Jeff Corvette would start at pole position for the third race, where Hall Ingus would end up leading the most laps with 145 before he's out because of Chick Hicks, who wrecks 17 cars. Sterling Carlin would be out because of Rusty Wheelhouse, who almost won the third race, but luckily Murray Clutchburn would end up winning the third race. Terry Carboni, who finished 5th, would start at pole position for the fourth race, where WJ Lights would end up taking the lead and leading for 306 laps. But then Chick Hicks would end up wrecking 13 cars, and Ralph Carlo is out for the season. WJ Lights would almost win the fourth race, but he'd lose to Rowley Boltstrike, who wins his very first win in only his fourth start. Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position for the fifth race before Chick Hicks would end up wrecking 17 cars, including his rival. The King would luckily take the lead away and win the fifth race. Second place in that race was Mark Carton, who will start at pole position for the sixth race, where Krusty Roder, Nick Charger, Rudy Washtire, and Ivan Yoder are all out for the season because of Chick Hicks, who will be suspended for 5 races. Ruby Easy Oaks would lead the most laps in this race. And Jonathan Melcher is 15th as of lap 280, where Larry Smith and Rusty Cornfield will be out, and the King would only lose by 9 feet to Billy Oil Changer, who would win his second win in the sixth race. Dale Earnhardt, trying to get another win, starts at pole position for the seventh race, but Billy Ford would go airborne on lap 169 because of Kyle Traxon. Why? But Bill Racelot would take the lead and lead for 20 laps coming towards the end of the race. But Jeff Corvette would take the lead from him, leading for the next 8 laps, but then Clint Shiftwright would pass them and win the 7th race. 4 wide behind Clint Shiftwright in the 7th race. WJ Lights would start at pole position for the 8th race. His rival Ron Blaster came second, but Larry Smith is out! Same with Jimmy Speedcar and Ruby Easy Oaks on lap 179. Hall Ingus would end up leading the most laps with only 74, but now he's out because of Kyle Traxon. Why? But he's now out because of a bump and run from Dale Earnhardt, who would win the 8th race. But the King would end up starting at pole position for the 9th race, and Eugene Karbareski would go airborne on lap 5, and now he misses the next 7 races. And Manny Flywheel is out for the season because of Kyle Traxon, who will be suspended for 10 races for what he did. Ron Blaster would almost win the 9th race, but Rowley Boltstrike would only lose by 12 feet to Rusty Wheelhouse, who would win the 9th race. About the 9th race, the top 5 are all blue cars. Terry Carboni, who is not a blue car, starts at pole position for the 10th race, and Billy Oil Changer would end up leading the most laps, but Will Turnspike and Wendell Bumpers both have career-ending crashes, and this is because of John Hicks! This is so bad that he'll be suspended for the rest of the season, and he'll also be suspended for the next 2 seasons. And he also faces criminal charges for what he did. Clint Shiftwright would almost win the 10th race, but in the end, Rowley Boltstrike would win a 2nd race in only 10 starts. Murray Clutchburn would start at pole position for the 11th race, where Mac Icar would take an early lead before being out because of Chick Hicks, who will wreck 20 cars! Why? But the king would end up only losing by 4 feet to Raleigh Bolt Strike again? Second race in a row, and already 3 this season. Jeff Corvette would start at pole position for the 12th race, making sure Raleigh Bolt Strike didn't get it, but WJ Lights would be out! Same with Phil Pit Stops because of Ron Blaster! Why? But Michael Karchuk would actually lead some laps before being out himself because of Chick Hicks, who wrecks 15 cars. Ricky Slood would also almost win the 12th race, but in the end, he lost to Bobby Carboni, who wins his very first race. Last season, his brother Terry won. Chick Hicks would be suspended next race. Hooray! But Raleigh Bolt Strike would start at pole position for the 13th race, where Jimmy Speedcar would spin himself out to eliminate Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. Sure, he is out, but Jimmy Speedcar stopped Jeremy Carfield and Dave Laney from being out. Jeff Corvette would lead 197 laps, the most out of any car in the race. Ward Burnton would almost win the 12th race, but he still lost to Terry Carboni, who will win his second race in his career, winning the 13th race. But Hall Ingus would start at pole position for the 14th race, where Chuck Armstrong would be out, and same with Kevin Phillips, because of, you know his name, Chick Hicks! Why? Ken Schrader is only the 3rd car to lead this race. Hall Ingus would almost win the 14th race, but he lost the other guy that actually led, Dale Earnhardt, who wins the 14th race. He's actually quite good at winning on this track. The King would start at pole position for the 15th race, but Jonathan Melter is out! Same with Rusty Cornfield, who goes airborne on lap 62. Raleigh Bolt Strike is out for next race as well. And Aiden Blocker has a career-ending crash. Why did all this happen? Chick Hicks! Why? Davey Apex would hop on the wall to pass the King and Dale Earnhardt, but he goes into the catch fence on lap 298 because of Mark Burnsley. Why? But at least WJ's okay. Good thing WJ Lights is okay. Jeff Corvette would almost win the 15th race, but in the end, he lost to Hall Ingus, who would win the 15th race. But hooray! Chick Hicks will be suspended for 9 races for what he did. But Aiden Blocker's replacement is George Hansen, who is this car. Billy Oil Changer would start at pole position for the 16th race, where he'd lose the lead to Murray Clutchburn, who would lead for 68 laps, the most out of any car. Billy Ford is out for 10 races because his engine is on fire. Sadly, that is. Larry Smith is also out because of an engine failure. The King would almost win the 16th race, but Jeff Corvette would end up winning the 16th race. But Jeff Corvette had some nice words to say to Billy Ford. Please get better soon, Billy Ford. Jack Rush is also very mad that his engine was destroyed. Mark Carton, who is Billy Ford's teammate, will start at pole position for the 17th race, where WJ Lights would lead for 70 laps, the most out of any car. Ricky Carvin would lead for 3 laps, being his first laps led. But Dale Earnhardt would almost win the race, making sure that Ricky Carvin doesn't lead too much. And also, Raleigh Bolt Strike would win a 4th race! What? Mark Carton would once again start at pole position, but for the 18th race, where Greg Candyman would get flipped on lap 88. Who did it, you ask? Oh, it's not one of those 2 guys. It's Eugene Kobareski! Why? But James Clean Air would get a very big lead and lead for 102 laps. Ruby Easy Oaks is out because of an engine failure. Rusty Wheelhouse would lead these laps, and Dale Earnhardt. Both cars led too many laps. How? Jonathan Melcher is out for 16 races because of Andrew Axler. The Piston Cup officials thought of suspending Andrew Axler, but remembering that Jonathan Melcher ended Cole Speedman's career in the 1993 Dynaco 400, they decided not to suspend Andrew Axler. But Jeff Gorvette wins the 18th race. He would also start the pole of the 19th race, where Kevin Phillips would end up getting an early lead and leading to lap 16, where Bill Racelot would end up leading the most laps with just 47. Claude Scruggs, for some reason, got sick and he exited the race. His backup car, Hollister, would end up entering the race. Ricky Sludd would be out on lap 139 because of Ron Blaster, who actually crashes out with him. And so does Mark Burnsley. Jimmy Speedcar decides to jump over them, but Jeff Burnton jumps on Jimmy's Speedcar to get above them. WJ Lights saw an opportunity after his rivals got wrecked to lead, but Dale Earnhardt would do his bump and run and pass WJ Lights. He would lead, but Rusty Wheelhouse would almost win the 19th race. Turns out Dale Earnhardt never lost the lead because he won the 19th race. Rowley Boltstrike would start at pole position for the 20th race, where Sean McMotor would end up leading the most laps, which is weird, but he's out for the season. And also, Robbie Gorvette and Ruby Easy Oaks are also out because of Kyle Traxon. Why do you wreck other cars? And he will be out for 2 races after that because of Rusty Wheelhouse. Hooray! Because he wrecked Kyle Traxon. The King would end up only losing by 8 feet to Jeff Gorvette, who would win the 20th race. But Rusty Wheelhouse is no longer a car that will wreck your favorite car. Mark Carton, who is a very good car, would start at pole position again for the 21st race, where Darren Leadfoot would lead the most laps and also almost win the race, only losing by 11 feet to Dale Carrett, who would win the 21st race. Sterling Carlin would start at pole position for the 22nd race. Johnny Blamer would lead his first laps in the 22nd race, but Eugene Karbareski would wreck 14 cars, including Ken Schrader, who's out for the season after Eugene Karbareski flipped him. Murray Klotchburn would take the lead off the restart and lead for 4 laps before going airborne because of Jeff Burnton. Why? But his car owner, Jack Rush, thinks it's okay. The King would lead the most laps with 376, but Sterling Carlin would only lose by 3 feet to Chuck Armstrong, who would win the 22nd race. And here are the standings as of the end of the 22nd race. Oh, I also added pictures.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
One thing I forgot was what Jeff Gorvette said at the end of the 22nd race, hoping his teammate Ken Schrader would be okay. Stay tuned! Races 23 to 35 will be out very soon, in only a few days, so stay tuned for that.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Ruby Easy Oaks would start at pole position for the 23rd race, where he'd lose the lead to Dale Carrett, who would lead the most laps with 71, before Slider Petrolsky would go airborne on lap 349 because of Ron Blaster. Why? But his rival, WJ Lights, would almost win the 23rd race, losing to his friend, the King, who would win the 23rd race. But Ron Blaster would be suspended for the next race, which actually makes sense. Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position for the 24th race, where Bobby Carboni would end up leading the most laps with 168, before Daryl Draggard would be out for the season because of Eugene Cartereski. Why? Ernie Gearson would end up winning the 24th race, being half a lap ahead of second place, who is Clint Shiftright, who starts at pole position for the 25th race, where James Clean Air would gain another massive lead, leading for 279 laps. Darren Ledfoot came really close to winning the 25th race. Mark Carton was even closer, only losing by 12 feet to Dale Earnhardt, who would win the 25th race. Even though he didn't do well in practice, the King would start at pole position for the 26th race where, oh no! Chick Hicks is back! Because his suspension is over, and he'd wreck 22 cars! Since one of them was Misty Motocross, Claude Scruggs had something to say. I didn't know he stole lug nuts. The King would end up winning the 26th race, which is really, really good, but he'd come second to Hollingus in qualifying for the 27th race, where, who is it? Jeff Gorvette would end up leading the most laps with 176 before Chick Hicks would end up wrecking 15 cars, including Rusty Wheelhouse, on the last lap, which means that Chick Hicks sadly wins the 27th race. Jeff Gorvette would start at pole position for the 28th race. The car who started third was Andrew Axler, who goes airborne on lap 176, and now he's out for the season because of Kyle Traxon. Why? But he'll be suspended for the rest of the season. His rival Chick Hicks would wreck 11 cars across the race. Ron Blaster would almost win the 28th race, but the King would end up winning the 28th race, which is good. The King came fourth in qualifying to Billy Oilchanger, who starts the 29th race. But now he's out because of Chick Hicks! Why? Wrecked 17 cars, by the way. But he's out because of Dale Earnhardt T-boning him. Hooray! But what's even better is that Dale Earnhardt said this about Chick Hicks. The King would end up almost winning this race, but he'd lose to the rookie Raleigh Boltstrike, who wins the 29th race. He would come second to WJ Lights in qualifying for the 30th race, where surprisingly, Ernie Swervin, who's finally back, would lead the most laps with 65. Michael Cartrip would be out because of an engine failure. This was caused by Chick Hicks! Why? But he cheated by messing up Michael Cartrip's engine. And he's out because of the same reason why Michael Cartrip's out. And Dale Earnhardt would end up wrecking Chick Hicks yet again. What's even better is that Jeff Gorvette would win the 30th race. Chick Hicks would start at pole position for the 31st race, where he'd lead every single lap. How does any car lead every lap? And he'd wreck 8 cars in his route to his second win of the season, where he led every lap. Larry Smith, who came second that race, would start at pole position for the 32nd race, where he would lead the most laps with only 47, which makes a bit more sense. But Chick Hicks would crash 9 cars, was leading every lap, not enough for you. And since the 4 cars he crashed was popular, the entire crowd was booing Chick. Even Daryl Cartrip was shocked. This race would only be lost by 5 feet by Larry Smith to the King, who would win yet another race with the 32nd race. Murray Clutchburn would start at pole position for the 33rd race, where Dale Earnhardt would end up leading the most laps with 299. Chick Hicks would wreck 24 cars, but since that was so many, he will be suspended for the rest of the season for causing the big one. Ernie Gearson would almost win the 33rd race, but in the end, Dale Earnhardt, wait, what? He loses by 2 feet to Larry Smith, who wins the 33rd race. Dale Earnhardt would end up winning the pole for the 34th race, where the King would lead the most laps with 128. Another good car, being Mark Carton, would almost win the race, losing to Larry Smith, who wins 2 in a row! How? Bill Ray Slot would start at pole position for the 35th race, where Jimmy Speed Car would jump over him. How? But Kevin Phillips will lead for 99 laps. Does anything in this race make sense? But Ruby Easy Oaks would get flipped. But by who, you ask? Sammy Smelter, the stinky car, flips him. Larry Smith, who actually takes a car wash, would win his 3rd race in a row. Larry Smith is now able to mathematically win the Piston Cup because of his 3 wins in a row, being 162 points behind Jeff Gorvette in 1st. Sterling Carlin is somehow here. And, yep, Rowley Boltstrike can go for the Piston Cup in his very 1st season. And these 4 cars can't win the Piston Cup this year, but maybe they can try again next year.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
KA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. cannot race in the Dynaco 400 because he and Rusty Cornfield's haulers crashed. Ryan Shields also crashed in the last session of practice, meaning he can't race either. Joe Brakecheck, Paunchy Wipeout, and Darren Leadfoot will race in the Dynaco 400 instead of them. Chuck Armstrong will start at pole position for the Dynaco 400, where he would lead the first 4 laps before Ernie Gearson would take the lead from him, leading for the next 6 laps after that, where Rusty Wheelhouse would take the lead from him, leading for another 6 laps before the King would take the lead from him, leading for 9 laps before the rookie, Rowley Boltstrike, the first rookie leading the Dynaco 400 for a while, on lap 27, where Dale Earnhardt would bump and run him and take the lead, before WJ Lights would use the wall to get past Dale Earnhardt, leading for 4 laps before he'd lose the lead to Bobby Carboni, who will lead all the way to lap 47, where he'd lose the lead to Murray Clutchburn, who would lead to lap 50. But you're probably wondering, who takes the lead on lap 50? Jeff Gorvette does, and he'll lead for just 5 laps before Johnny Blamer would get T-boned by Billy Oil Changer. Why? And now Johnny Blamer, Billy Oil Changer himself, Kenny Shiftright, Ruby Easy Oaks are out. Jeremy Carfield, Ricky Sludd, Ward Burnton, and Paunchy Wipeout are all down 1 lap now. Mark Carton would take the lead after the restart, and he'd lead for 2 laps before he'd lose the lead to Hall Ingus, who will lead all the way to lap 64, where he'd lose the lead to Terry Carboni, who will lead for the next 3 laps before... Wait, what? Larry Smith will take the lead for another 3 laps before Dale Carrett would take the lead from him, leading for just 4 laps before Clint Shiftright would end up leading himself, leading for 3 laps before number 4, Sterling Carlin, will take the lead for 9 laps, where Rusty Wheelhouse would take the lead from him. Unluckily for Rusty, Eugene Karbareski will take the lead on lap 91, leading for only 3 laps, where Mark Burnsley would do a bump and run on him, leading to lap 97, where Joe Brakecheck and Ron Blaster would wreck each other out. Bill Rayslot would take the lead after the restart, where he'd lead to lap 101, where Jeff Gorvette will take the lead from him, leading all the way to lap 115, where Hall Ingus would take the lead from him, leading to lap 128, where the King would cleanly pass him and lead for a whole 20 laps before Eugene Karbareski will be 15th as of lap 136, where Ernie Gearson, Clint Shiftright, Dale Carrett are out. Murray Clutchburn will take the lead from the King, and he leads to lap 152, where Michael Cartrip will actually go down 1 lap, and Paunchy Wipeout another 2 because of the huge lead. WJ Lights would take the lead and lead all the way to lap 170 but then Terry Cabani would take the lead from him, leading to lap 173 for a total of 3 laps. Jeff Gorvette, his teammate, would take the lead from him, leading to lap 180. And then the other Jeff Burnton, would take the lead for just 1 lap, before Dale Earnhardt would do yet another bump and run, leading for 7 laps, before Rowley Boltstrike, the rookie, would take the lead until lap 194, where Jimmy Speed Car would somehow take the lead, but then spin himself out because he was trying to get Dale Earnhardt, but it failed, which means that Dale Earnhardt will now lead 7 laps. Rusty Wheelhouse will lead until lap 213, where he'd lose the lead to Hall Ingus, where he'd lead until lap 218, where he'd lose the lead to WJ Lights, who would lead all the way to lap 227 for a total of 9 laps before Jeff Gorvette would once again take the lead, leading for just 2 laps, where Mark Burnsley would take the lead from him, leading on lap 230 before he goes airborne and is out because of, actually it's his rival, WJ Lights, who will take the lead and lead to lap 236, where Sterling Carlin would take the lead from him, leading for just 4 laps before Murray Cotchburn would take the lead from him, leading for 10 laps before the King would just straight up pass him and lead for 9 laps before Bill Reeslot would take the lead from him. No one was upset, but he did lose the lead after 3 laps to Bobby Carboni, who would lead for 5 laps before WJ Lights would once again retake the lead. But then he'd lose the lead to Sterling Carlin, who would lead for 4 laps before Mark Carton would once again take the lead to lap 279, where Larry Smith would take the lead from him, leading to lap 291. Wait, what? But then Jeff Gorvette would take the lead for only 5 laps before Rowley Boltstrike would be out due to an engine failure. Hall Ingus would end up taking the lead and leading to lap 302, where Terry Cabani, again, would take the lead from him. But he only leads 1 lap before Jeff Burnton would lead 2 laps. But his older brother, Ward, is back on lead lap. Jeff Gorvette would end up leading all the way to lap 318, where Sterling Carlin would end up leading to lap 325, where he'd lose the lead to the King. The King would lead all the way to lap 339, where Larry Smith would once again take the lead, leading for 7 laps before Eugene Carbareski would be 13th on that lap to wreck Murray Cotchburn, Jeff Burnton, and Paunchy Wipeout. Bill Reeslot would once again take the lead and lead to lap 352, where somehow Darren Leadfoot would take the lead from him, losing the lead 3 laps later to Terry Carboni, who seems to take the lead a lot these days. On lap 358, he'd lose the lead again to Larry Smith, where he'd lead to lap 367 before Dale Earnhardt would do yet another bump and run, leading to lap 372, where WJ Lights would end up taking the lead from Dale Earnhardt. But on lap 376, Jeff Gorvette would once again take the lead. Since you see a 380, that means someone else takes the lead, and that one is Rusty Wheelhouse, who will lead for 7 laps before Hall Ingus would once again take the lead. But then, a daring move by Dale Earnhardt would lead to him taking the lead, leading to lap 395, where the King would take the lead from him, leading to lap 398. But then, somehow, Darren Leadfoot would take the lead, leading to lap 400. He will win his very first race, the 1995 Dynaco 400. But since he's nowhere near winning the Piston Cup, Larry Smith, who was second, would end up winning the 1995 Piston Cup. The season results are right here. And Rowley Boltstrike, the rookie, somehow got 5th place. Larry Smith, after a long wait, finally got his Piston Cup. Jeff Gorvette only lost by 3 points. If only he had finished in the top 10. The King finishes 3rd. Well, it makes sense from the finish in the top 5. Bill Reeslot had another good season, finishing in 8th. But Sterling Carlin had an even better season, finishing in 7th. Billy Oilchanger also had a good season, finishing 21st. Clint Shiftwright is back in the top 15. And Mark Carton only barely beat Murray Cotchburn to finish in the top 10. Mark Burnsley somehow fell all the way to 32nd, Ward Burnton and Jeff Burnton managed to finish in the top 30. I guess Jeff Burnton and Jimmy Speedcar just jumped on other cars to get into their position. Ernie Gearson had a really far fall, since he almost won last season. Ruby Easy Oaks continuously wrecking probably means that he's in 35th place. Andrew Axler, Ken Schrader, and as you cannot see, Krusty Rotor fell due to a season-ending crash because of Chick Hicks or Kyle Traxon, who dropped positions by being suspended. Darren Leadfoot had a really good season. His very first win pushed him up 4 positions. Kevin Phillips and James Clean Air are also in the top 40. Usually they aren't, but well, you saw this season, they led a lot of laps. Mike Yankee's back in the top 40, and also Davey Apex, who performed quite well last season, but failed to finish in the top 40. Well, he's in the top 40 now. Kenny Shiftwright also didn't do too well. Misty Motocross finished in 29th. I don't know what to say about that. But Chick Hicks almost didn't finish in the top 20. Sadly, WJ couldn't finish in the top 15. But Michael Cartrip continued to qualify for every race. But Mike Yankee's back in the top 40 after some stiff competition with Jonathan Melter.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
No real events that I need to mention here, but the real reason why the start of the video was so short was because no one retired.